first of all, I just
Yes.
want to say there's a lot going on, Jessica, right?
Yes, there
We
is.
have, I think if you're following our social, you will know that Jessica and I have been traipsing through the borders.
I like
Not
the word.
one, not two. We may be going to a few others, but we have had a really good couple weeks and it's been really nice. I was in my favorite place and potentially at some point, maybe homeland of San Miguel de Allende. If it all goes wrong, you could find me in San Miguel.
When it, y- you mean when it all continues to go wrong?
When it all
Right.
continues to go wrong, you
That's
can
right.
find me eating churros,
Mm,
chocolates on some
mm,
corner and
mm.
enjoying the beautiful artwork and the beautiful people. That's where you can
Amen.
find me.
Good name.
Jessica, where will we find you?
I don't know if you'll find me there, but I definitely. So I was in Vancouver for a
Oh,
little bit,
lovely.
and
Yeah.
you will definitely find me there more often. I think I've shared many times before. The water is super grounding
Oh,
place for
yeah.
me, and so
Yeah.
being in Vancouver, being able to just take like an Uber basically and be on the
Yes.
water, like take a
Oh,
water taxi, take a ferry, take
oh,
all of
yeah.
the things. It's an amazing place. And so I will definitely be going there more often. And it's a 3-hour flight and you don't have to go in the international terminal at
You don't,
no. I flew United, which was Air Canada, so you can go through United.
Right. That's right.
Global
girl.
entry on both sides. So yes,
Yes,
it was
girl.
yes.
Well,
Yes. So it was
you know,
amazing.
welcome to our listeners. Like, subscribe, follow us. Before we kind of continue on, you guys are hearing another voice. And it might be a
Yeah.
familiar voice because we are lucky enough to bring back our first guest. I think we've shared this episode over and over again because it was by far one of our favorite episodes. It
Oh,
is a
thank you.
it has been something we've talked about frequently, and I believe we are all going through a lot and
Absolutely.
stress. I want to introduce Dr. Nicole Weeks. Dr. Nicole, but
So
Nicole is
whatever
what
you
I'm
like.
calling Nicole,
Whatever you like,
and a
actually.
professor at Pomona College. She's a psychologist, neuroscientist, an expert on the body brain connection.
Absolutely.
And she helps us revisit and talk about the science behind stress and
Yes.
how and the
Yes.
impact that it has on our body and our nervous system. And we've
Absolutely.
particularly put an emphasis on Black women
Yes.
and what we are going through. And so listen, y'all
Yeah.
know this
If you
episode.
look, if you're sitting here going like, I don't think I need a psychologist in my life right now, you're not paying attention.
Well,
So
amen.
so
Amen. I'm gonna
we are happy to have you here because all
thank
of
you so
us
much.
need people like you to
Thank,
get one foot in front of the other these days.
thank you. Amen. I could not agree more. And I also don't know what I would do without my weekly 50 minutes. So
Right.
I am
Okay.
absolutely, as well as all the other things,
Right.
which we can talk about.
Right.
So thank you. Did you say this is your 50th episode?
Well, it's actually 51 now.
Oh my
This is
goodness.
gonna be 51.
That is
We
fantastic. So I
decided to
want
be a hot mess for our 50th and go back
right?
to who we
Oh,
really are.
that's right. That's right. You did say that. So I want to congratulate you two. Two powerful, amazing Black women, right? On
Oh,
how we get where we get to, even in the hardest of times. And how do we make that happen and how do we make that sustainable and things like that. So also
yeah.
it was a pleasure joining you back then for the first episode. And it's lovely to be back and to, see where we've all come, even
Mm.
in the midst of, right? Even in the midst of such a difficult time. So it's great to join you. Thank you so much for having.
Thank you. And
Absolutely.
Nicole, I don't know about you, but a
Yes.
lot's been happening since we first had our first conversation
Oh,
on the
yeah.
campus of Pomona College
There
at
you
the
go.
colleges.
There you go.
Why don't you update us on what's going on with you? How are you doing?
Yeah. We were talking before we officially started about when people ask me, I still say, oh, I'm doing fine. And there's a way in which that's absolutely true. I am doing fine. I'm maybe going out of my way to be fine, to
Mm.
take better care of myself, to decide what to engage in and when to engage, things like that. So I think the thing that I would say is I'm doing fine, but man, is it taking a lot of work to be there, to get there. And it's taking a lot of, different coping strategies. So I'm fine in this moment, right? My small circle is fine, but I was talking to a friend who said they're just appalled. There's a sense that we're all trying to stay above water in ways that were not of our own creation.
Mm.
Mm.
That's a really difficult thing when you're trying to stay okay, then you don't feel like you have full control in some ways. Certainly of the things that are happening around you, we don't, right? But even how you cope with that, you know?
I love that what you said, kind of going out of your way to be fine. I
Yes.
think that just yeah, that intentionality presence is not enough right now, right? We
Yes.
really have to do more. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, I think we just chatted a little bit about our trip and going
Absolutely.
out. And for me, I think for many of us, sometimes we're
Yep.
like, if we can afford to, we're like,
Yes.
let's get out. Let's
Yes.
run. Let's go. And I will say I had the pleasure of 10 days without a news
That's
or
good.
actually even knowing what was going on.
Yes.
I know you just took a trip
Yes, I sure
to
did.
Spain,
I
but my
sure did.
but I don't know. The question is that enough? I mean, and is that,
No,
because right. So what do you do when one, you maybe not be able to afford that plane ride,
that's
or
right.
two, what do you do if you know it that's just not enough anymore?
Yeah. Oh, no, that's a great question. And I think that I often think when I'm talking about like what does vacation, what does rest look like for all of us, right? I often think about that idea of the getting away and having an appreciation of there's a book and a quote. John Kabat-Zinn wrote the book, "Wherever you go, there you are." Right? And so this idea of I am absolutely not opposed to getting away in all the ways we do that. I think it's important. I think just a change of smell, of scenery, of media, all of that is critical to having those moments of rest. But I think it's important to recognize not just in this sort of global stressor all now in, but just in terms of our daily lives, the getting away can be a good way to sort of fortify you to come back to the things that you're going to have to come back to.
Right.
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 So I think it's recognizing what that trip is providing you with, right? It's not likely you're ever going to be able to get away, certainly from yourself, you will not, but even from, the larger term and the more serious stressors that we each experience and we experience as a community, as a country, as a world. So the way I think about it is it's nice to get away in whatever way you do that. So exactly as you said, if you're privileged enough to get on a plane and go, but even if it's, you know what, for a week, I'm not going to, and then
Right.
down that list, I'm not going to, have conversations about what's going on in the
Mm.
country and the world. I'm not going to listen to TV. I'm not going to, right? All of those things, I think in some ways, in some moments, we all need to do, but there you are,
Right.
right? It doesn't get rid of the things, right? But it may give you a moment just to have some perspective and get some strength back. So I think it's that combination. Sure, do whatever you need to do to rest, right? To, sort of reframe, but you're coming back into it. And so how does that time allow you the opportunity to cope differently when you're back in it? That's what I would say. So
Yeah.
escape is not a thing that happens. It's not a thing that we can
Mm.
actually do.
Yeah, I think that coming back into it piece is so important, and I'm glad you're touching on that of what are the things that you even if you escaped, what were the things
Yes.
that you did while you were away that you can
Yes.
carry into being back? I was funny, I was talking to someone last night about I didn't, like, turn on my international whatever it's called, roaming or something,
Uh-huh.
just because I
Mhm.
kind of 1, I kinda didn't know how to do it, and then I'm like, "Oh, I guess I'll just only use my phone, like, when I have Wi-Fi." And that
Yes.
was so
It was.
Yes.
freeing to only
Yes.
have that, and that's something I can easily do here, but, like, I love that, like, how do you bring it forward and not just, like, I can only do these things when I'm on vacation, and now I'm back into it,
Exactly.
and now I'm back into the swirl, right?
Exactly. And in fact, I'll say on that, another thing I'm sort of interested in, kind of off topic, but comes right back to topic. And that is the neuroscience of habit formation, changing habits, things like that. And one of the things they say in that world is it's often when you have the largest life change event that you have the opportunity to change your habits,
Mm,
right? So when you're
Definitely.
shifting, right? When you're
Yeah.
shifting and you're in another place, both physically outside of the body, but also your brain is taking in different information, that is actually a good time to say, okay, well, while I'm at it, while I'm having this
right,
different experience, let me try a couple of things and see if I can, then incorporate them even when I'm back in that place that I'm so used to being in. So I absolutely in every possible way. And that's a nice thing I hadn't really been thinking about is
yeah,
yes, it gives us time to rest and breathe. And it also gives us time in a less stressful environment to try out some things. It might just be too overwhelming
right.
to try to do in our typical environment. So yes, yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and because in some ways, we all feel like we have to be on
All the
when
time.
we're in our home,
Yes.
when we're at home, work's calling, your 9 to 5 or whatever
Yes.
time you're working, you feel as though there's no way to kinda turn off.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, back, as you're on a college campus.
I am.
You are every day dealing with not only your stress, but other
Yes,
people's stress, your
yes,
faculty, your colleagues, but
yeah.
you're also dealing with
Students.
young people
Yes,
and what they're dealing with.
yeah.
What are you hearing, and how are you able to sort of take care of yourself as you're trying to support other people?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. I think it's just a continuation of what we're talking about. People are overwhelmed. People are I will say for myself that this political change has really put in question what the things that I thought I knew about this country. So it's like the everyday things, right? But also just the broader sense of self and sense of where I belong and all that. I mean, it's pretty it can be very overwhelming.
Yeah.
One thing that I find, I guess I'll say it in two ways. In terms of the positive, I feel as though I'm actually quite good at helping to support young people, support my students, things like that, because I'm very clear about my own pain and
Mm,
distress and things like that. So, what I often feel like I do for my students is just provide them with here is another person who's still vertical, who is struggling but also staying above ground. And that here is someone that I can look to, and I've lived enough years and I've experienced enough pain and anxiety to have come up with some strategies that I think our young folks just haven't been around long enough in some ways to find. So one, I would say on the positive, I am that much more diligent about not just at school, but in my personal life too, of reaching out of saying, we need to huddle. We need to be there for each.
mhm,
So I think I'm very intentional about let me make sure what I'm putting out there is as kind and compassionate as possible. Right. That's
mhm.
the one side. Other side is, I think a lot of us had all sorts of concerns about what this administration was going to look like. First time
Yeah.
around, the second time around. But as it unfolds, I think you start to think about the degrees of separation that you have from real,
Right.
actual danger.
Yeah.
And I think living among, being a professor, being on, an academic environment, campus, I just feel very clearly, the protests of the last couple of years, what that has meant, how critical many of us thought that was to have happen, and then the backlash from it. And
Yeah.
then the backlash from, are we going to exist? If Harvard can't fully resist, and they
Right.
have been for many of us sort of the marker of resistance academically, if they are really, really up against it, right? It's not clear how long, their resistance is going to hold. That'll wake you up. If you needed to
Right.
be awakened um,
Hmm.
like that, really. So I feel that being on a college campus, like my gosh, these kids have been from COVID to
Huh.
the end of democracy, and right, they haven't had time to gain the coping. But
Right.
for me, it's I feel like I'm in the middle of like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, what's going to happen to these institutions, and also how do I present myself to my students in such a way that's not pretending I don't have, the concerns, but trying to provide a positive model for them in some ways, right?
Right. Well, it's so interesting. I mean, you never want to like trauma compare, but like you said,
Like,
I mean, right now, there's most people in the world
yes,
feel attacked for something, whether
yes,
it's where you work, whether it's what field you work in, whether
yep,
it's what you look like, whether it's
yep,
what you believe in, whether it's
yep.
what city you
Who you
live in,
love,
who you love,
mhm,
what state you live in. Like
right?
there's
Absolutely,
attack coming everywhere.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
so when like you said, with like some of these college kids, like compounded, right? They
Yes,
already have the age that they are, what they've
yes,
gone through, where they
yes,
go to school. I mean, it's too much.
yes. I mean, and I think that I actually like using the word too much. How long can you live in too much?
Right.
So,
Hmm.
right? So there's the external out there. There's too much out there coming at us. And then what are the things that we can do, but really have to do in order to mitigate too much? Is
Yeah.
it how
Yeah.
much I take in? Is it what I do with what I take in? Because I think that's the reality. It is too much. And it's
It is too much.
too much. What is it all the time and every right?
Right.
It's
Coming from everything,
not
right? And it's hard to regulate.
that's it.
For me, it's hard for me to regulate
Absolutely.
my nervous system because the minute I go, "Oh, okay," then you're like, oh, okay, didn't
Yes.
realize that was happening." And it's the constant. I love how you're saying that, navigating the student world
Yeah.
because you don't want to panic them.
Yes,
Yet
exactly.
they're seeing their friends not being able to come back to
Absolutely.
campus, and they're seeing their
Absolutely.
friends
Worried
being
about
with family,
Right.
yes,
right? And but at the same time, the stress is too much.
yes, yes, yes. It is. It is. And I do think there's the point of how do I exactly what you said, regulate. I think it's two levels. I think it's okay, I'm taking all of this in. I'm taking all of this in. How could we not be? I'm taking all of this in. How do I regulate my reaction to it? But there's also the regulation a step before of can I really continue to take this much in?
Mhm.
So I think it's really thinking through at a number of levels, right? How how can I be in this moment? How can I be in this time and space? And what are all of the ways in which I can exercise the little bit, if you will, of control I actually have? Sometimes I do think, I struggle with like, how can I turn off the TV? How can I not know what's going on? Isn't it my responsibility to, right? Right.
Right. I do
And
feel that
what
sometimes.
would I do with it? Right?
Right.
What
Right.
can I do with that? Aren't I in a better position to take in what I can
Yeah.
and still be able to be productive and proactive and actually do something, right, in a positive way about it, as
Yeah.
Yeah.
opposed to take more in and be overwhelmed and paralyzed. And I mean, I am sure that certainly the three of us have all experienced that
Yeah.
like I want to know everything because that's the kind of people we are, but I can't, right? I can't let it paralyze me
Right.
because then I'm no good to anyone.
Well, it's the
Hmm.
balance where I struggle in with
Yeah.
situations like right now is the balance of community and the role
Yes.
that community
Yeah.
plays, right? Because sometimes community, Tanya, to your point about your own nervous system,
Yeah.
like sometimes I want to be there for people, I want to
Yes.
hear, I want to give, but
Yes.
also I recognize that is not actually what I need and it's not
Yes.
helping me. And so,
Yes.
how do I both stand with people, show people I care, show
Yes.
support while also saying, I am putting myself first in this situation
Yes.
like I said, if you'd have people in your life who feel like every single day is a threat,
Yes.
Yeah.
how do you not show up? But like you said very well last time, like you could keep showing up for people, but what's coming next is like autoimmunity. I mean, you
Oh,
rattled off like
You
10
did autoimmunity.
yeah. So
yeah.
it's like I gotta also watch out for myself, and I'm not great at doing that. And so if I actually recognize it, I gotta
Yes.
listen. Like I got
Yes.
to listen.
That was so that's the thing I was gonna say, and it's sort of high up on the sort of stress management effective techniques that we understand neurologically is this idea of self-awareness, right? I'm in this circumstance. I think about this a lot. I've been proactively spending a lot of time with my family. And that's mostly wonderful, not 100% wonderful, but it's mostly wonderful. And I have to be very aware. I have to bring myself back to awareness to say, is this still serving me? Now, there's a point, right, in all of our relationships where I might decide this is not my favorite thing to be doing right now, but
Right.
I'm okay. I'm not going to throw myself into a stress response that's going to make me sick, right?
Right.
So there's that wiggle room in there of trying in the midst of all the noise to get present, right? Bring yourself back to presence, right? It's not like we that's a state you stay in, but stay present of how am I feeling right now? Is this can I do this? Can I do this?
And I do
It might again not be the thing I want to do, but I'm cool doing it. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm not feeling, all those cardiovascular
Right.
and right the headache and the right. I get a cold the next day after I go, all that kind of thing, right?
Nicole, I need a session with you because I think
Girl,
that
oh no,
all of that.
I need a session with you and my therapist and maybe 4 more people. I'm,
Every day. Every
I
day.
get it. I told you, I get it.
Every
So that's
every
what I
day.
would say, right? Right is I think I think there are things we can do in this moment that are, oh my gosh, all this stuff is happening out there. Oh my gosh, I need to fortify myself.
Mm.
I need to fortify my strategies. And so more that's happening out there, the more I think, okay, remove yourself, right? Get some rest, get a moment away from
Mm,
all of that to set yourself, to
yeah.
reset yourself, right? To be able to say, I can't do anything about that if I'm not good,
Right.
right? So,
Yeah.
what are the steps? So I'll just say this for me, I'm a good ruminator. So I hear something or I feel like I did something that I should have done, and then I'm up all night,
Mhm.
right? So one strategy I know for myself is I have to take action. I have to take action. So that can mean a million different things, but it seems to be true under every circumstance, right? That it's not just things that I do or ways in which I interact in the world that then make me anxious or stressed about something I don't think I handled well. But it's also about, what does it mean to take action? And sometimes that action may be removing yourself.
Mm.
How do I re-empower myself? Not the world, right? Because I probably have very little control over that. But how do I empower myself to do the things, take action in a way that's going to help me be able to continue to be vertical, you know?
I love that. Take it because I think I struggle with a little bit of I struggle with a lot of that. I mean, I will, lay in and think. I do find that if I get up and just take some notes
Yes, yes,
and digest everything that I feel like I need to do,
yeah.
that I feel better.
Spit out
So
the yes,
I think
exactly.
everyone thinks I create an itinerary for them. Honestly, I'm creating it for myself.
Yes, yes.
They just have the benefits of it.
Yeah,
Whether they want the benefits or not.
that's a different issue. That's a
That's a
different,
whole nother episode.
that's it.
But I love the idea of taking action because I think
Yes.
we can feel paralyzed
Mhm.
in the stress, the anxiety, whatever it is, and we feel like
Yes.
we can't do anything. But we can control some things,
Yes, we can.
at least
And
within our own lives.
exactly. And I was going to say the thing that's often said is the only thing you can control is your own reaction. But But right, you can't control what's going to happen to you most of the time, but you can control the way you react it. Now, I just want to say one thing about that. I think under some circumstances, and I believe we're in one, it's unreasonable to think, oh, I don't have to get upset by this. I don't have to, feel fear as a response to this. I can control my own
Mm.
reaction, right? I think we need to be very careful when we say that flippantly, that it would be bizarre. I would worry more, Tanya, you and I have talked about this, about a person or a style that was, I'm fine. I'm controlling my reaction because everything's fine in the world, right? I think you have to be very careful that you recognize sometimes controlling your reaction is not ignoring that there's something really horrific happening, but instead saying, okay, what's the best way for me to respond? And it could be anything, right? It could be, I'm going to connect to my family more. That's what I've been doing. I'm going to connect to my community more, even if it's not going out and directly connecting with what's happening, in the world, in terms of immigration, in terms of whatever, but still finding ways to sort of get a base under yourself and to serve. I mean, that's something, Jessica, you were saying about community. Like, I'm a really big believer in that. And also with the complication of sometimes you go out to help serve others, and that just creates more of a stressor on you, right? And so
Yeah.
back to that idea of, what are my coping strategies and what's going to work for me, but hopefully also in the world this time around.
Right.
Uh, because I
Yeah.
think this time is totally different than what most of us have experienced in our
Right.
lifetime.
Right.
Right. And I say it like a little bit in jest, but not not really. I mean, I
Yeah.
think things like when you talk about kind of those practical strategies, like
Yes.
I have been in a place where I'm like, I'm turning off like news alerts. I cannot,
Yes.
this nervous
Yes.
system, especially when I live downtown. And so when they kept sending
Mm.
like
Yeah.
curfew alerts every single
Yes.
day that were just like forced onto my phone, I was like,
Yes.
I can't have any
Very
other
true.
alerts like forced onto my phone. But
Yes.
part of community is
Yes.
then I have a whole lot of people who've now
Mhm.
become like news alerts in my
Yes.
phone. If you have a group of people who you
Yes.
surround yourself with because they're
Yes.
civically engaged
Yes.
and worldly and understand what's going on, then that means you suddenly get, did you see this? Did you see this? Oh my
Yes.
gosh, did you see what just happened? And so now your community has also become this kind of red alert place too. And so
Yes.
how I often struggle with, how do I balance with, this is not the time to retreat and be by
Yes.
myself, but
Yes.
also I I also gotta create some boundaries around what I
Yeah.
can and can't take in.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, and it actually reminds me of some scientific work looking at, if you are being discriminated against, as we on this call all are in our many ways, in our many identities. If you're being discriminated against by individuals and systems, something that you all had asked me about before, is it helpful if you have a tight connection with your identity group? That same identity group that's being discriminated against, does it serve you well to be highly connected to that group? You probably
Mm,
both know what I'm going to say.
yeah,
It is
yeah.
a double-edged sword.
Right. I
Yeah.
gotta go find some, like, middle-aged white men
You see
to
what
be
I'm
in my
saying? There are a couple of
maybe add 1. I
that's
mean, I
what
don't
you
have
have.
1.
Look, it's
Maybe
one. But in all seriousness, I think that is a real
Mm.
challenge for all of us.
Mhm.
Is that sort of, we talk about it as the Platonian mean, or that optimal level. Where do you get that sense of giving and also
Yes.
of receiving, right, in a way that's healthy,
Yes.
and not, when I engage here, most of what's happening is I feel more sacked. I feel like I have more information that's going to paralyze me. So I think that's a really good question. And the literature would suggest that's absolutely right. So some studies find that I'm having a tough time, and that tough time is around my identity.
Mm,
My stress hormone levels are they going to be better off with me connecting with other people who are likely in the same position or not? right? And some
Interesting.
studies find cortisol levels going down, others find it going up. And then there are all kinds of other complicated aspects of our stress response. So I think the data is consistent with
Yeah.
what each of us experiences, which
Yeah.
is sure there are times where it makes perfect sense, but there is also often a trade-off.
Right.
First, I need that study for us to
Okay.
share. So when I tell people, you know what, I can't show up because you're going to stress me out more, that they know that there's some data
That's
behind that response.
well, they're
I will,
gonna
I will say that while
You
I
could
was
tell
on vacation,
Tanya's going to be sending text messages with footnotes citing
that's
all
right.
of her.
I'm so sorry, Dr.
References?
Nicole, Dr. Nicole.
Yes.
I will say though, while I was on vacation, I got an email from a friend,
Yep.
friend and
Yep.
colleague,
It happens.
and they were inviting me to
Yep.
go help clean up downtown LA,
Yeah.
graffiti. And
Yeah.
I just know, I will be honest.
Yes.
There was a response in my heart that went, "Oh." And I didn't respond. I was like, "Oh, I didn't see that email." But I love somehow that got buried
No,
in my
but
Right.
likely she just responded, Jessica lives in downtown. You should ask her.
Right. But it was a little bit like, I guess I should want to do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I'm a Black woman.
Yeah.
I feel as
Yeah.
though I'm not in that stage right today.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's stage, and it's also like, who should be at the front of
Yes.
all of these movements, right?
That's the
I
question.
know there's nice cartoon slash character going around of Black women sitting on the top of a roof watching it all burn with 92% t-shirts on. Like, we
Not my
did it.
shirt.
We did it. Right, right. And it's sort of also like not my circus, not my monkeys. I
Right.
didn't piss
Right.
you. You
Well,
all want a circus? You
when
want
I
you have
When I
it.
tell you I said that exact same thing to myself this week, I was like, you know what? That quote needs to probably come back out on my mouth more often.
But this ain't mine.
That's
This
a-
ain't mine. Right. But having said that, oh, it is. Right. It
Right
is.
Now it is. Now it
Right?
is.
And
Now-
that we don't get the luxury. We never get luxury, right?
No.
Never.
I mean, the three of us have a certain level of, right, privilege, luxury, all of that. But generally, as Black women, we don't have the luxury of standing back and watching it burn.
Right.
But it can't. The alternative can't be so I'll burn for it. You know,
Mm.
that cannot be the.
Yeah, it can't be jumping into the flames.
That's
Like that is
exactly
not
right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
exactly right. And
Right.
and I will say, as just good people, I understand we all struggle with, well, if I were really down, if I were really a good person, if I were really good Buddha, aura, whatever you are, right?
Right.
Or aren't, right? Wouldn't I do that? And I think it is taking that step back,
Yeah.
complicating it by saying for what outcome,
Mm.
For what
right? Not just for what outcome for myself, but how am I serving? And is this going to, on the broader level, allow me to give more or less?
Right.
So, but I struggle with the same thing.
I'm sure you get a lot of calls. I'm sure they are.
Yes, then I've had a few. I've had a few.
Yeah.
So that's how I think about it, though. Is no, we need to. I don't think we can buy into these very simplistic ideas about, if you were a good person, if you are on the right side of history. I think you get to decide.
Right.
Thank
I
you.
am the person.
Right.
I do plan to be on the right side of history. What does that mean for me?
I
Right.
just needed to say thank you for that.
Oh,
Because I think there's a lot of us out there who feel as though we feel this.
yes.
I've said a lot of, rest is resistance.
Yes.
I put that out. It's not just a slogan. Rest is safety.
Yes.
Rest is
Yes.
right. And I think that it's okay
Yes.
if you're out there right now. It's okay to choose rest.
Amen.
It's okay to choose yourself and take a
Amen.
break mentally and
Amen.
say, not this time.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think the thing that is we have to keep in mind also is the speed at which things are moving right now.
Yes.
It's like rest is like a second because in an hour, there could
Yes.
be something new coming out that is attacking a new part of your identity. So
Yes.
it's not as
That's
if
good
you're
track. No, that's
signing
good track.
off forever. It's like,
Yes.
look, it's for like this
This
hour
moment.
until
This
the
moment.
next news alert
That's
comes
it.
at me. Right.
That's it. And let's see where I am at that point. Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I do want to say, when you talk about stress in general, the things that make the characteristics of an event that make it stressful, right? And when I say make it stressful, I mean changing brain activity, increasing adrenaline levels, increasing cortisol. The things that you can predict are going to cause biological stress, unpredictable, uncontrollable, and a feeling that this relates to me in particular.
Mm,
It doesn't have to be in particular as a person, but it has to be like, no, I am threatened by
right.
this.
Right.
We are threatened by this. Those
Right.
are the three greatest predictors of whether your body is going to get the message, send the message, right? And then, the systems of your actual body, your physical body are going to change, let me say, as a result.
Right.
Absolutely. Immune system, cardiovascular system, gut health, all of that. So if you think about the situation we're in, think about unpredictability, think about uncontrollability, think about is this related to me,
Mm,
right? Something that I have any stake in, if you will, the outcome of,
yeah.
right? We are in that place. We are in a circumstance, having just come out of COVID, where we could go through the same things, right? And that's not to say that COVID's over. That's just to say, right?
Right.
And here we are, you know.
Right.
But
Well, I
to
think
me, that means we have to be that much more protective of ourselves.
I was just gonna say, and so present. That's why presence is so
That's right.
important because even when people come up to you right now and ask you that question, like you were saying, how are you?
Yes.
Your immediate, that immediate response is like, I'm
Yeah.
okay. But then if you slow yourself down to think
Mhm,
through what are they actually asking? Are
mhm,
they asking, is my family okay? Are they
mhm,
asking, is my job secure because
mhm,
my
mhm,
industry is what are
mhm,
they asking? And have the presence to walk through it. I
mhm.
think then you start to really figure out because some of us, like, honestly, if something happened to us, we work in academic medicine, right? It feels like some of those first attacks were like
Yes.
6 years ago, and it was
Yes.
like 2 months ago, and how much
Yes.
has
Yeah.
happened
Oh
since
my
then?
God.
Oh, you're
So,
absolutely right.
when people ask, like, "How are you doing?" and they may mean, like, "How is your job or your
Yes.
industry?" It's like, I'm not even thinking that because there's
Exactly.
been
I'm so
thousands of
in.
people in my
Yes.
everyday who've been impacted for whole new things that
Yes.
weren't even on the radar.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I think it's a strategy. It is a strategy on that side of I'm going to put so much on you that you're just not even going to be able to
Say,
cope,
yeah.
deal, think, be aware.
Mhm.
And I I'm experiencing the same thing, and I somehow it helps me to think, oh, but that's the strategy. That's
Mm.
strategy. And so it's
Yeah.
just another awareness
Yeah.
of like, let me see what can I do to not fall down, to not become paralyzed by it. Okay, maybe I can think about this one thing and I'll do a little bit of reading on this one thing that's happening and maybe I can, right? But it requires I think more awareness than certainly in my 58 years. I can't think of many things that have required so much of us,
Mm.
both for ourselves and for our communities and
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
world, right? We think about the world we want to live in. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think you kind of gave us one tip and tool.
Yep.
I've often recently talked about whatever the practical thing that I
Mhm.
can do,
Uh-huh.
health. I'm not
Mhm.
sure I'm doing a great job, but
Okay. Any
some
of
of
us are.
the what are some of the soft land? We talk about
Yes.
soft landing. I've said it,
Yes.
to you. But
Yep.
what are some of the scientific back tools that we can use? And I know it's hard
Yes.
because it's almost impossible because we said when we kind of get our nervous system regulated,
Yeah.
something pops in,
Helps in.
right? Because
Absolutely.
it's intended to kind of keep us on
Absolutely.
edge.
Disorient us.
But how do we get help us
Yes.
help us figure out
Yes.
a
So
few tools?
yes, and let me say, I mean, I always feel a little fraudulent when I give these kinds of talks in terms of master of the calm, right? I am right. So let me just be clear about that. But so I can both reflect on things that I'm doing, but partly I'm doing them because there's science behind it, right? So when I first learned about stress and health, mostly in graduate school, one of the things they talked about in terms of coping with stress is social support. So I have gone out of my way, as I was saying, like I now, even though my family's in LA, it's not like I should see them more than I see them anyway. But we at least have a weekly Zoom now. And just, hey, girl, how's your week been? How's your week been? Call me, right? All that kind of stuff. And so we try to connect every week. We try to do things together more. There are people who I'm very choosy about who I spend my time with. So when I say social support, be real. Like, do you really get social support from X person in your life? Does that work for them or does it work for you? So when I say social support, I mean intentional. So where does it come from for you? And let the guilt go. We're not in that kind of place. We don't have time to feel guilty about what we should do, right? Where do I get real social support? There is excellent evidence, both with regard to cardiovascular health and with regard to immune functioning, that social support is one of the most effective coping strategies, right? And that's been known for quite some time. It's been shown even in primates. The primates that once stressed go find someone else's, bugs to pick out of their fur, and don't get smacked as a result of that. Think of some of your family and friends. They do the best in terms of health outcomes. So social support is a huge one. And we've known that for so long. Just to complicate it, right? You could also think about spending time with people in your ethnic group as a way to create social support. But that's why I made the comment first of like, be very careful who it is you reach out for and who you allow to reach out to you, because that's critical. It's always more complicated, right? Vitamin N, nature. Even if the nature is on your screen, right? The best thing to do is to be someplace where there is fresh air, where even if there's not fresh air, you can see some form of nature. Being outside, I often give my students the task of, between you leaving my class and you getting to your next class, I want you to count the shades of green on our campus and report back to me. And I don't care if they report back to me, but it's just this way of trying to engage people in that awareness of, we are here and we are in this crazy position. And there also still are all of these things that could be supporting our wellness and mental health. So a big one is nature walks. We think about the Japanese. In parts of Japanese culture, there's something called, I'm not going to be able to say it in Japanese properly, but forest bathing, that you go into the forest or nature with this idea of bringing yourself back to this moment. So no matter how stressful the world is around us, in this moment, am I safe? In this moment, what am I doing? What am I looking at? What am I smelling? Right? Also found scientifically to be extremely effective in decreasing stress hormone levels, in impacting immune functioning, and also actually, when we do these techniques, you often see a decrease in the level of activity in areas of the brain like the amygdala, which is partly about alarm and sort of negative emotional processing. You can actually see that going out into nature, and it doesn't have to be that often, although I recommend making it a regular practice, of course, but you can see changes in the areas of the brain that are involved in the way in which we consciously are aware of stress, as well as sometimes unconsciously how it's affecting the rest of our body. So I would say absolutely social support, some form of being out in nature. Again, I ideally would not be having fish going across your screen, but if you have fish going across your screen as opposed to just something else, that is still better for you. So
Right.
just find ways, no matter what it is, right, to engage in that way. Exercise, absolutely. And I should bow my head because I know it and I have not been doing it in the way that I should. As I said, I sometimes feel fraudulent. I know the things, right? Exercise is terrific. It's actually also one of the strongest predictors of overall health, even in, and sometimes especially when people are under a lot of stress. What buffers, the stress response? Exercise, for a number of different reasons, is one of the things we know buffers response. And there was one other, let's see if I can find it. Oh, yes. So I said this. Well, there's being in nature, but another part of that is mindfulness, meditation, finding times and ways, again, to bring yourself back to the present moment. I find this very difficult as a practice, right? So I am a believer and a practicer of Buddhist, philosophy, things like that, mindfulness being part of that. But I will say in this moment, it's hard for me to practice in this moment, I'm completely safe.
Mm-hmm.
Like in this moment, sitting here on the line with you two beautiful, amazing women, if I really bring myself, if I can get there, pretty safe, right? That feels like a miracle right now, right? And yet I think it is still an important practice of can you just in this moment? And I think for many of us, and sometimes it's childhood trauma, that's part of it for me. I have so much vigilance of like, yeah, but what if, right? But that's also wearing and tearing on the body.
Yeah.
So even in this moment, for as long as my nervous system, my history, whatever will allow me to, can I really actually be in a room with the two of you and recognize we're okay right now. We're okay. And if it's helpful, a bomb could go off in a minute. In this moment, we're good. Right? That is so critical to all kinds of levels of health. And we have the biological measurements for that. But man, that to me is, I don't know, is so difficult right now. I know it. I know that's where we need to get to. And yet it feels unsafe, right? As opposed to creating more safety for. We're okay right now. We're okay in this moment, right? It's so hard. And yet the literature is clear that those states of awareness, moment to moment awareness, again, are some of the best things you can do in terms of overall health outcomes with stress. Whew.
Well, look, I mean,
Disciplines.
the good news is a lot of those are action. So like you
Those
said,
are.
Yes.
if you can't get to the
Yes.
place that you're saying, it
Yes.
does give you that outlet of
Yes.
action where you can connect, where you can do the
Yeah.
forest bathing, where you can see the nature, right? Like it does allow you to feel like you still are listening to yourself and
That's it.
holding yourself,
And you
That's it.
don't have to do it all.
right?
You can pick
Absolutely.
one. Pick one. Find that
Because
find that fish to go across the
That's
stream.
because
And
you
that
know that
Gail,
Because you know that's me, like, I'm like, "Okay, you know what? This is a good idea. This afternoon, I'm gonna do a community sound bath in the
right?
forest."
People try to do it all and
Yeah,
feel overwhelmed and
that's
say,
it.
I couldn't do it all. But you know what?
But that's not
Find the fish.
that's
Find
exactly
the
that
fish.
is not the lesson. The lesson
Yeah,
is not here are
no.
7 things, do 8 of them.
Look,
Right? That is not the lesson.
change your screensaver to your
That's
favorite nature
whatever.
photo. Just start there.
Exactly.
And that's all what I'll be
Listen,
able to do
that's
this week. Thank you.
yes.
But I also think feeling safe in this
Yeah.
moment.
Yes.
Find that moment, those
Yes.
moments that you feel
Yes.
safe. And I
Yes.
will say that community, connection,
Yes.
finding
Yes.
those soft moments
Yes.
that we
Absolutely.
all can find, regardless if it's in
Absolutely.
the country or out of the
I
country.
was gonna say, sometimes
Amen.
these days that safety comes with a passport, and that's
There you
okay.
go. There you go.
And a stamp.
And
And
a
Understand.
and a yeah, and a retina scan, but other
And
than that,
well,
the
I
Mhm.
safety.
yeah. Oh, God.
Whatever it
Well,
takes. But also, I think it is important to say you don't have to do it all, and it doesn't have to be one big thing,
Yeah,
right?
right.
We have lots of levels of privilege amongst us, right?
We
yes,
do.
If you had to scale all that back, I do think it's important to say, and we might have to be a little bit more creative, but we can all find there are ways with help of finding, that solidity even
yeah,
in the moment.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
There is no way that I can express how amazing you are.
Oh,
And what you just said to all of us, I think are jewels
yeah,
and treasures that we all need to sort of hold because I think never, as we said, we need to have a voice, but it's a voice that's not just, the news, but it's a voice
yes.
that's going to share the path the only way that we can survive through this, right?
That's right. That's
Is
right.
voices like yourself.
Well, that's so I'm honored by that. And I'll say it's for me, it's voices like yours, right? It is the community. It's not like the leader of whatever, but it's us being together and sharing our experiences and sharing our successes, right?
yeah.
What do you know from your field? What do you know from practice? What's working for you? And an acknowledgement of this shit is hard.
Mm,
This is this is not a time for the weak-hearted or weak-brained. This has really taken a lot out of us, and I think we thrive. I think we try to find ways to thrive in spite them.
well, welcome back to our listeners.
Oh, it's
You are welcome. You are welcome for this timeline cleanse for you whenever you like. I know a lot of our friends listen to this in the car, on the way to
yeah.
work, out on a walk. I think this episode is worth say if you started it, people say we'll put this at the beginning of the episode, but like as soon as we started, say like find yourself somewhere where you can really take this in and listen. Maybe it
Mm,
is while forest bathing, but take this episode in and I think listen to it multiple times, not for our own good, but really for your spirit, because
Yeah.
you bring a whole level of peace, a whole nother level of peace to us all. So thank you for being here. Hey, it's Jessica. Thanks for listening to Girl Call Me. If you have something to add or a story to share, come on over to Instagram or Facebook and join the conversation. Also, make sure you follow and subscribe Girl Call Me. You don't want to miss when we release new episodes. Thanks for listening.